You're listening to Advocast, the Adult Education Podcast. This podcast is being sponsored by the Coalition on Adult Basic Education and by Burlington English, the group that's been publishing educational material used by millions of learners around the world. Today, Burlington is a major supplier of digital material for individuals learning English. Burlington continues to grow, enter new markets, and introduce new innovations in language, teaching, and learning. And now, here are co-hosts Erin Vobornik and Sara Haghighi.
Hi, Erin.
Hi, Sara. How are you?
Good. Welcome to Advocast.
Yeah, episode 5.
Can you believe it? This is the 5th episode.
I
Is that
know.
not exciting? So I was celebrating the 5th episode. That's why I came to the Advocast studio. How do you like it?
I love it. I love that baby grand piano in the back.
I know, that's special.
Very classy.
Oh, this way. That's particularly for us. So when we want to take a break, I'm gonna go and play some piano.
Lovely. You'll be doing all of the interludes, right, between guests.
Yep, that's right.
And we have some awesome guests today too.
Wow, tell me about them. Yes, we do have Patrick Brown and Tammy Brown and one wonderful student, Erika Muñoz, right?
Yes. And Tammy and Patrick are from the Michigan Association of Continuing and Adult Education, which is called MACAE. And we were in the Safe Fellowship with Tammy, so we know her from there. And funny story, she would talk about MACAE in these meetings, like our Safe Fellowship meetings, and I thought MACAE was somebody's last name. And I kept thinking, who is this MACAE who's doing like all of this amazing work? Like, what are they doing? And then it wasn't until like I saw it in writing and I had that moment of like, oh.
I know. They usually use the backdrop that they have the MACAE sign. And I always thought the same thing, that was a person, someone maybe from their college who's doing it, someone who's not present. Like, what's the connection? And then eventually, like, it clicked at some point. And I was like, oh, that's smart.
That's it. And so MACAE does do a lot of advocacy. And so that's why we kind of snuck up on them and asked them, begged them if they would join us today.
That is very exciting. I'm very excited.
Yes.
And
they were, I was just going to say, and they were kind enough to recommend a student to come from Michigan as well. So we get to talk to Erika Muñoz today about her experiences as an adult ed student.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I can't wait to talk to them and learn about all the good things that they are doing in Michigan and learn from them and implement them here in Arizona.
Yes, because we are both involved in our state associations, right?
Right. Yeah, this is very exciting. It's good to have them. But before we start the show, I just wanted to acknowledge something. This is something that is very heavy on my heart. So as probably our audience, the listeners know, we pre-record most of our show. And the day that we are recording this, the day before, yesterday, the shooting happened in Texas, in the school, Roth School. And it's very heavy on my heart. We are all in education. We are advocates for education, and I just don't have words, and I don't know how their family and loved ones are surviving these days. It's very painful.
It is.
And it's such a coincidence because yesterday was also the anniversary of George Floyd. So I just wanted to mention this and honor things that are happening in our community.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's hard to move.
Continue after
I
such
know.
a heavy subject. Yes.
It is. And I also come from a community that was the subject of a school shooting at a campus that I went to. I was in the building next door. So it is, it absolutely is something that unfortunately I think about when I walk in to teach my students, and something that I'm sure our students are thinking about, not only for themselves as they enter our classrooms, but their hearts are also with their children.
I don't know how the future will hold for children who experiencing or experience this traumatic event, but I hope they stay in school and continue their school. If they decide at some point that they can't tolerate school, which is very sad, I hope they don't get to that point. But we want to make sure that we have our adult education programs ready for them. So at some point that they feel that they want to continue their education in a different setting, we welcome them and make sure that they are successful in our programs here.
Right.
And that's why we are here today, to learn and talk how we can successfully advocate for our programs, right, so they get enough funding so we can help all these students.
Adult education makes the world a better place.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Great.
And that advocacy never ends. And COABE is doing a lot of advocacy. So, we love to have our legislative update just to let everyone in the field know what is happening. Because again, there are so many things that are on our plates. Our hearts and our minds are scattered in so many different places. It's just helpful to have, a brief update of what's happening kind of behind the scenes.
Right. So tell us, do you have good news?
I do. And the good news is it is time for Hot on the Hill.
Ooh.
You're listening to Advocast, the Adult Education Podcast. And now, it's time for What's Hot on the Hill with Erin and Sara. Take it away.
I just love that music.
Me too.
So we have kind of two quick updates. And the first one is on appropriations. So COABE is working with members of Congress towards getting that goal of $810 million for adult basic education state grants for this upcoming fiscal year 2023. And in the House, we have Representatives John Yarmuth of Kentucky and Raul Grijalva of Arizona, who are leading a Dear Colleague letter and basically that's a letter that goes out to other representatives, kind of asking them to sign on and showing their support for adult education. And so COABE is continuing to work with these champions and the signers of these letters just to support the funding through the entire process, because of course these processes take weeks and months, and can sometimes feel a bit opaque and unclear from where I am down at the teacher role. And then the next one, which I think we will all be familiar with, is the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act.
WIOA.
So, yeah, what do you call it?
We call it WIOA. What do you call it?
WIOA.
Mm.
And I've heard some people call it WIOA. We'll have to ask Tammy and Patrick what they call it. But yeah, we call it WIOA. WIOA sounds like the YMCA to me.
That's true, but I think it was a word related to one of the Native American languages. Oh. That's why we stopped calling it WIOA and we are calling it WIOA.
Ooh, I'm going to need to do some digging into that. That would be a very good reason to stop stop saying it like that. So basically, the House of Representatives is expected to vote on the WIOA during the week of May 15th. And that legislation contains several of COABE's recommendations. So 3 things that COABE would like to see would be authorizing an innovative pilot performance accountability system, which would let programs better measure those outcomes and demonstrate all the good work that they're doing. Second, to provide a dedicated increase in the amounts that programs can spend on professional development. And then third, supporting the development of improved credentials and quality standards just to enhance career pathways and ensure that our instruction is really effective. So by the time this airs, the vote in the House has probably already taken place. But again, check into those COABE Connects newsletters that come out on Fridays. That's where you're going to get the most up-to-date federal legislative activity.
That's wonderful. Can't wait.
And keep your eye out, because that's also what you're going to hear about if there's a 3-click.
Yes, exactly. Don't forget the 3-click. It's as easy as just, that's it.
You've been practicing that. That was good.
Yeah, it's very easy. And I'm very happy that Representative Yarmoud and Grijalva are working on that letter to get signatures from their colleagues. That is going to impact our programs greatly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's great having legislative champions for adult ed.
Wonderful. Okay, how about if we take a short break and we come back and talk to our guests?
Yes, I can't wait.
You've been listening to Advocast, the Adult Education Podcast. Your hosts have been Erin, Vobornik, and Sara Haghighi. This podcast is sponsored by the Coalition on Adult Basic Education. And I'm your producer, Jeffrey Abramowitz. You can listen to this episode on COABE's YouTube channel or at www.coabe.org.
All right, so we are about to be joined by, there she is, Tammy Brown and Patrick Brown of the Michigan Association of Continuing and Adult Education. Welcome, Tammy and Patrick.
Welcome. First and foremost, we are not related. That's the first question that's always asked.
That was a question that I wanted to ask. Thank you for clarifying it.
Secondly,
welcome.
As you can see, we have a new MACAE logo. Our name is actually changed, Erin. It's the Michigan Adult Community and Alternative Education Association.
Oh.
So that was
when
just
did it
this
change?
spring. We changed it because we wanted to make sure we were more inclusive of all the programs we were working with.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah, one of the reasons for that was the C actually is for community. And so when you all were talking about the events of this past couple days, our organization really has representation from early childhood professionals all the way up through adult education. And so we, as you were talking, I just appreciate Erin and Sara, you acknowledging that. Because we have so many of our members that work with children on a daily basis, in addition to educating adults if they're on the adult education side. But, we have providers that do before and after school enrichment, and they also do summer school programming. They might do community-based programming and also high school diploma completion programming too. So our members are feeling a connection in that way with those in Texas. So yes, the name change came this spring. We kind of did a soft launch, and we are trying to be inclusive of all the different facets of adult education and kind of the extending partners around it as well.
That's awesome. Can you repeat it one more time for me?
I'll try. Michigan Adult Community and Alternative Education Association.
That's wonderful. What a
I'm
good
just saying MACAE because that's a mouthful. So
okay.
Do you still call it MACAE?
Yes, it still actually uses the same acronym, and that's kind of why we selected it, so that we could move the words around so we wouldn't have to change, because everyone knows us as MACAE in Michigan. So we didn't want to lose MACAE, but we wanted to make sure we were more inclusive.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I like that. And
so I just wanted to learn more about you. Maybe we could just take turns and maybe we start with Patrick. Tell us about yourself. Introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having us. And I would say that we are here as an extension of our board and all of our members from our association. But I'm Patrick Brown. I'm the director full-time at our state association, and we're happy to work with Tammy, our wonderful president, and our entire board of directors. And we also have a part-time administrative assistant on our staff as well. I started in adult education in a very roundabout way, as I've heard all of you talk about your experiences of getting into this field. And I started in adult literacy and worked at a literacy center in the heart of Detroit, on the east side of Detroit, some years ago, and really kind of fell into it and did a summer internship through AmeriCorps Vista and the AmeriCorps program. And then after I graduated with the secondary English and Spanish degree, I wasn't able to find employment in education, which is ironic now because we have a major teacher shortage in the education field right now. And so I started in adult education and worked through an ABE program, an ESL program, and then several years ago had the opportunity to start at the MACAE Association. And my responsibilities here have evolved over time. I really started focusing on outreach and communications within our association. And then within the last 18 months or so have moved into the director role and really have tried to help with the strategic partnerships and the planning that we have, our advocacy, as well as continuing that communications and outreach work. So I'm just happy to be here and be talking about what we're doing in Michigan.
Great to have you here. Thank you so much. How about you, Tammy?
Hi. I've been in adult education for approximately 10 years. I actually started in enrichment. I owned a business hiring teachers to go teach art after school. And then I was working with Troy schools on enrichment and helping them with their scheduling because I love like scheduling and tasks and making things fit in. And so I ended up kind of slowly creeping into that world. And then when the adult ed director retired, I slid into the role. I had a master's in public administration, so I was eligible. And that's how I started in adult education. And then right away, I was introduced to MACAE. And then all of a sudden I was on the board of MACAE as the treasurer. And now all of a sudden I'm the president. And it kind of just happens. If you're involved at all, you get sucked in quickly. But it's been amazing. So I'm actually, my full-time job is director for Troy Continuing Education in Troy, Michigan. We have a high level of ESL population. So we're one of our largest integrated education and training groups we still call it WIOA. So we're going to have to find out about that because we didn't.
I know, don't quote me on that. I'm no expert in
WIOA or WIOA. We'll have to see because I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of grant funding through WIOA, and we have a state Section 107 through MDE that also funds our adult education programs here in Michigan. So
good. So you still call it WIOA?
We call it WIOA as well, yes.
Okay.
But I have a note here to look into it.
Yeah, that would be good.
I don't know.
Let me know if I'm wrong because there might be a chance that I'm wrong. So
okay, well,
I wonder if it's a regional thing because I'm Midwest too.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, Erin.
That could be, yes.
We'll have to ask people on social media, do a poll on how we pronounce it.
Yeah, we need a poll for that.
So, Patrick, you mentioned that you are full-time. So I'm interested because that is just kind of completely wild in my mind that there's a full-time position. So just to kind of clarify for our listeners, how is your association leadership structured?
Sure. That's a great question. And what I'll just add before I kind of explain is that Tammy and I most recently attended with a delegation from Michigan, the COAB conference, and we ourselves were surprised at the makeup of other associations and the staff. And we really appreciate COAB affording the opportunity for us to have that opportunity to learn and connect with other associations and be able to do that most recent conference. And I look forward to continuing to do that. So our association has been around for almost 40 years. Next year is the 40th anniversary of MACAE. And it's made up of a volunteer board from professionals across the field of adult education across our state. The iteration of that board has changed over time from being maybe specific to a particular type or program within adult education to regional or geographic representation. And so now our board of directors really has a wide demographic of representation of both of those different kinds of programming aspects of adult education. Over time, it's changed from being made up of a number of directors to now we have positions from career navigators to program directors to coordinators on our board. And that's kept up with the evolution of our board and just the evolution of the field in general and the responsibilities that people have. We also have folks that are on our board that their primary work is not necessarily adult education services. They also provide services in a K-12 setting or in a nonprofit setting, and adult education is just one facet of a multitude of other programs that they're responsible for. So we kind of carry that wide representation. We also have some ex officio partners on our board that are some of our strategic public policy, workforce development, Michigan Department of Education partners that are on our board, the Michigan Department of Corrections. And then within the board, we have an executive board, and that is made up of our president, Tammy. We have a vice president, as well as a government and advocacy relations chairperson, and a treasurer, and then a past president, if we have a past president. And so that's kind of the governing structure of our board. They oversee and help to drive the strategic planning of our association. And through their work and efforts over many years, have been able to build the capacity of MACAE to have and maintain staff. We have always had central office staff or some variation of that to keep membership and bills and accounts payable and that sort of thing. And then probably about 5 or 6 years ago, the board really had the drive to want to build up capacity around the programming and the advocacy. And so that is where this role that I have fallen into was created. And the evolution of that has just been through our stewardship of finances within our association, but also the strength of our members and their commitment, and then the direction of our board and really their vision to see that this position is so important and necessary for communications, publications, strategic planning, and really that advocacy piece as well.
Yeah, I would say it really came out of a need because director roles and other MACAE membership roles have changed so much in the last 10 years. We wear many more hats. Everyone has the other duties as assigned, so they might have adult and alternative ed and maybe community ed or preschool or care. So there wasn't enough time in our schedules as a volunteer board to do everything we wanted to do. So the only way we could fill that capacity was with someone that MACAE was their focus, so that we could support that person, but they were there on the day-to-day. They had their feet on the ground. And when COVID came, and that's a perfect example, and I'm probably going into something we're going to talk about later, but when COVID hit, we were all in our programs trying to just work through what we were going to do day-to-day, how we were going to keep our students and staff safe, but still participating. We didn't have time to think about how we were going to support the whole state and all of our other peers, where Patrick jumped in immediately within a week and had webinars ready, Zoom PDs ready, and things to support us through that path. If we didn't have Patrick, MACAE wouldn't have been nearly as beneficial during COVID. So that's just a perfect example of, we get sometimes under pressure and timelines that we can't do as much as a volunteer board as is needed to be done. So for all those associations out there, I would advocate if you can find a way to at least start with someone maybe part-time and work your way up. It's very critical to being able to be have updates regularly, advocate regularly, and make sure your members are being communicated with as needed.
That's a great example because just as programs really felt the hit of that sudden shift to online / whatever, whatever happened in 2020, I imagine that a lot of state associations really had to put their work on pause just to be able to focus, because our students come first, right? Focusing on the students and then hopefully many of them are starting to recover now and being able to focus on that kind of that state level push, building those partnerships, as you mentioned, and the advocacy.
That is very important, and that will help with the advocacy work. But what a lot of states are dealing with is that they don't have the budget. They don't have it in their budget to hire a full-time or even a part-time employee to do the advocacy work. So I just wanted to ask, how many members do you have?
Yeah, we have over 400 members spread across about almost 130 different organizations.
Oh, that's wonderful. And what is your main source of income? Is it membership, or do you have sponsors?
Yeah, we have 3 different main revenue sources. That's our annual fall conference that we hold every year. We also have our membership revenue. And then we have professional development that we provide at a very, very, very minimal cost to our members. Usually it's held in person, but over the last couple of years, we've, as everyone, transitioned to a virtual format. And then we do have sponsorships from different events or special projects that we work on. We do work with our state office, and they help to support our fall conference, and we may get small grants or projects like that for specific targeted work areas. Is there anything else that I'm missing, Tammy?
No, I would just say the sponsors are usually our vendors that are highly used within Michigan, like Burlington English, or Adgenuity or Aztec or New Year's. Now I'm afraid if I don't say them all, I'm going to be in trouble because I'm not supporting them all. But we have wonderful vendors that work with all of our membership in Michigan, and they have always graciously helped support our conference, our institutes. Sometimes even just our webinars. We'll do lunch and learns, and they'll provide the lunch for a lunch and learn. So they're a great partnership. But really, our fall conference and our membership is the key to our funding levels. We
always appreciate
feel the need that we need to increase our funding levels just because everything changes, staffing levels change. We would love to find a grant that would make sense for us. So I think that's going to be our next focus. That's part of our strategic plan that we're going to be updating in the summer, is to try to find some grant funding that's more stable, and so we don't have to, put so much pressure on our members to be the ones supporting by paying for PD and conferences and things like that.
That's right. That's great.
So Tammy, you were kind enough to share like a kind of an advocacy calendar with me that the folks at MACAE, and I believe including Haghighi Lamar, correct? Created.
Yes, shout out to Haghighi. Yes. You will love that,
Erin. I'm a big fan.
We are too.
Lots of fans.
And then you helped me connect to Patrick, because it brought a lot of questions to the forefront to me. And one of the biggest questions that I have, because Sara and I, we are passionate about advocacy. And I talk to teachers and they say, yes, it's important. But it can be a struggle to get, for certain associations that I've talked to get members engaged in advocacy. So how do you engage members? And if it's something that you're really successful at now, how have you gotten to that point?
Before Patrick speaks on the actual day-to-day of that, I will just say it's still a struggle for us as well. I think it's a struggle for me to sometimes get my foot out there, because, you have to build those relationships, and that takes time. Where, like I said before, I'm always about, check off things off my task list. And if it's something that, it would be great if I reached out to so-and-so and just gave them a quick update when I don't need something. But usually it waits until, oh my gosh, there's going to be this change. Now I need something. And that's not how you build a relationship. So we still struggle in Michigan with that, even with us that, preach it and live it. I still struggle to do it right and timely and when I need to. So I think that's a struggle just in general with advocacy. It takes you out of your comfort zone. I mean, you guys have rocked. You guys make me feel like I don't do enough with all your social media posts. I just keep sharing and retweeting yours. So thank you for that work. Patrick, do you want to talk more about the actual workings of how we do advocacy in Michigan?
Absolutely. I think for us, the game changer was in our state, we have really worked with a couple of really important public policy groups. And we've really learned a lot from them. And their primary focus was not necessarily adult education. We kind of had to talk to people outside of our little sphere, our little space, to make sure that, are we on the right track, or, you know, where are we going? And that was over something that started with our past leadership at MACAE, and then has continued with Tammy and the rest of the executive board and our current leadership. And so from those partners, we really learned that we needed to develop a really, not only a strategic plan, a long-term strategic plan, but really a long-term advocacy plan and what that looks like. And one of the most important things that we learned was that advocacy is continual, it's multi-layered, and it isn't always just about funding. I mean, that is obviously what we're trying to work towards, right? And that's kind of the base of what we're trying to increase and do. But there's so many facets of advocacy that will help, that when we have to make those funding requests or asks, we've laid in the groundwork to be able to do that. And that is really a part of an advocacy continuum. And I think that was probably the most important lesson for us myself in a position to advocate, and as our board, to really get that sense of advocacy is really involved and needs to be a part of all of the things that we're doing, the programming that we're doing, the publications that we put out as an association, the communications that we put out. And so what we did several years ago was develop really two tools. One was a legislative engagement timeline, and it was a quarterly, over the course of a year, quarterly strategies for program providers that they could really hone into and utilize, and strategies on how to be an advocate for their program. Some of them were broken down by in-person activities that they could do with a policymaker. Some were just doing a phone call. Some were over written, sending an email. But part of that was building that strategy of, there's lots of ways to share information about your program and what the work that you do at multiple intervals. And sometimes we know you're just overwhelmed. Right now, the end of the program year, everyone is crazy, right? We're trying to get those post tests in. We're trying to do all these things. But we have graduations. We have important events. We have student profiles that we're sharing now. We have success stories. That's a great time to remind our members, and our members do this now. We've worked towards building that capacity to share that with policymakers. That's a part of advocacy. So that when we advocate in the fall for funding increases, or when we advocate for the next budget cycle, they've made that connection with those policymakers and shared their story. The other thing that we did was develop an 18-month advocacy calendar. I'll just put a little asterisk there and say that then our friend COVID came along, and so we've had to adjust that 18 months. It's turned into maybe a 24, 36-month calendar with some additions and deletions.
We're going to reset it this summer.
Absolutely, yes. It's a total reset, but that advocacy calendar was important for us because we really need to lay the groundwork so that we weren't just being reactive to things that were coming out, right? It's like, they are suddenly they're testifying on adult education services, or suddenly they're talking about integrated education and training, and we need somebody to be there. Well, let's build that into our advocacy capacity so that we're talking to them months before they get to that decision-making time. And so that advocacy calendar and template really outlines different ways that as an association we've committed to promoting that. That's through our policy work, that's through regional and local student speak events, which we can talk about a little bit. It's also just through, like I said, those local connections that we can make. But it's also promoting and helping our members to see that they can be engaged in their local communities and sharing about the importance of adult education. Tammy is on her local several boards and is able to share out and to really be engaged with, here's a space for us to be involved as an adult education provider and be an advocate not only for our county, but our region and our state. So those tools have been very helpful for our membership at large to kind of stay engaged and to be encouraged and to know that there are templates and tools available We obviously use a lot of the COABE information as well. During the
for all of our members to be a part of COABE, so they get all of the 3-click initiatives and all of that advocacy.
Right.
That's
a must.
great.
That's an absolute must. Yeah.
That's so great. What a wonderful idea to have such a great calendar. That's going to be a great resource for new advocates and seasoned ones.
It takes the guesswork out of what should I be talking about or what can I talk about? If your background isn't in digital literacy, you might feel like with the Digital Literacy Act, I don't feel like I can really speak on that as much, but having those other opportunities, there's always something.
Well, it's really important to know when to advocate for what as well. You need to know when is the transition between, the old and the new legislatures. When are they talking budget? When are they doing language? Because otherwise you could miss the mark and you'll be too late.
Right.
So one of the issues that I usually deal with is that there are a lot of part-time instructors that are great advocates, but only within their community whenever the time comes out, which is a very good thing. But they are interested in being in legislative meetings. The problem is that usually we schedule our meetings during the time that they are teaching. And they really want, when I reach out to them, they say that we really want to help, but if we want to request for a sub, then we're not getting paid for this class. Is there any support through your organization, your state association for these? Is there any stipend for these part-time instructors?
No, not through MACAE, but I will say as a program director that I do pay for my teachers to do PD or to attend student speaks or something like that. So if they're missing class because they're doing a student speak event or anything dealing with our students or our program, I as a program make sure I budget to pay for that so that they're not doing that on their own time.
That's wonderful.
You just have to be careful though that it's about informing,
right,
and not lobbying. There's a really fine line there. So they'll be there to support and talk about what they do in the classroom to inform them of what their classroom looks like, what their students look like, what their barriers and challenges are that they have within their classroom. They are never talking specifically about funding or specific legislature. They wouldn't be comfortable doing that. They love to talk about the students in their program, but they leave that to me.
Go ahead, Erin.
I was just going to say that's where having those success stories, as you were saying, Patrick, about graduation, right? Tagging your representatives in those pictures that you post and just kind of flagging them, making them aware it's advocacy, it's outreach, and it's celebration all at the same time. I love this time of year for graduation.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
One other thing that I would add on to Tammy's point was that as an association, we've recognized, like what you were talking about, Sara, how difficult it is sometimes you feel like you're advocating alone at the local level. It's like, I just don't have the time. And when I do, I just don't feel like I'm doing enough. And so we've really taken a step back and said, what can we do to not necessarily have to, we still think a Capitol Hill Day, bringing people together is important, but what are opportunities that we can engage and bring policymakers to programs? That's most important. So we have helped to schedule legislative visits at programs during class time. It's less than about what Tammy was talking about. We're not lobbying at that point, but we're informing. We want them to see what programming actually looks like, who's actually in the programs, what is kind of instruction and interaction is actually happening. And so if we can help set those up and kind of take that burden off of some of the local directors that maybe are unsure of how do I even go about that process. The other thing I would say is that we've tried to set up a lot of virtual experiences with several programs. Legislators are doing virtual meetings, and so that's another way that you can be engaged with them. And I think sometimes someone told us once, and Tammy will remember this, that I think sometimes as advocates, and as educators too, we always want to tell everything, right? And we want to like make sure that we check all the boxes. But someone told us about advocacy once with policymakers that it really is kind of giving them a sip of water each time that you talk with them. And so you have to kind of think about it in that way, is that all these little interactions are all little sips of water, and we're filling their water bottle with adult ed good juice, and we're giving them little spurts every now and then. And so all of that will add up over time. And so if you can kind of think about that, and we've really thought about that, how can we kind of do these little things as well as the big events, but doing those little things over time are going to be really helpful, and they're more valuable experiences for participants.
That is such a good example. Thank you for sharing that. Yes.
I think I've made I was going to say, I think I've made the mistake of like drenching a legislator or two with like the proverbial garden hose of like, here's everything about adult education.
Right.
No.
So that just you. Metaphors.
I can totally picture that.
Right. Sometimes they need that, Erin, though. Sometimes they need that spur.
To wake them
up.
I can get loud and talk fast and be like,
right.
And I like the idea of pulling out instructors and students as subject matter experts to be present in the meetings and advocate for our programs. And I know that we are going to have one of your students actually here as our guest, Erika.
Yes, I'm so excited.
I am too. So Patrick and Tammy, thank you so much for joining us. And we are going to have you stick around so that you can speak with us and with Erika after our short break.
You've been listening to Advocast, the Adult Education Podcast. Your hosts have been Erin, Vobornik, and Sara Haghighi. This podcast is sponsored by the Coalition on Adult Basic Education. And I'm your producer, Jeffrey Abramowitz. You can listen to this episode on COAB's YouTube channel or at www.coab.org.
Hello. Welcome back. And hi, Erika.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thanks you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on COAB's Adult Ed Advocast.
Wonderful. How about if you tell us about yourself?
Yes. I'm from Mexico. I came to the United States in 2017. And I never expected this change of my life to be moved to a country that is not my country, but things happen. And I'm here, and I was very interested to involve into the community and understand this new country, the culture, everybody. And the first, obviously, barrier that I have is the language. My English is still not good at all, but I try. As a tool, it's hard to learn a new language, but yeah, I just started studying in different schools until I found a track through education, and they give me the opportunity to study there. And it was amazing for me because they really helped me understand me. And first of all, they support and encourage me to do the things, because at first when I came here, you say, "Oh, I said Chinese, I can do whatever, I don't care." But they say, "No, Erika, you have a lot of education, so why keep in that path or try to do something?" So they give me a scholarship to study paralegal, and I finished last August. Last August I complete the whole program, and then apply for a job, and I have a job. I just excited about it. I love my work. Everybody's so nice there too. So, but it was hard. I mean, it still is hard. Every day is a challenge for me. but I try and I try hard, and I'm happy and living here and meet everybody. It's just, I'm excited.
That's wonderful. And Erika, as an ESL teacher, don't sell yourself short. Your English is amazing. There are native English speakers who would struggle so hard to get through paralegal. That is another level of English.
That is true. That is true. I second
Yes.
what you just said. We are so happy to have you here. We are proud of all your success. And you've been an advocate, and we want to learn about all your experience about advocacy work that you've done, and how you used your voice to help and support the cause, the programs that you studied in.
Yes, I mean, I participate. I'm helping the students, the students that are now in the program on track, and I just encourage them. I try to do the same thing that they do with me, that they did with me, and it for me is an honor. Yeah, I mean, and I just try to explain them that whatever they want to learn, they will succeed, because they have everything there. You know what I mean? They have all the tools and the correct tools, and so to become whatever they want to be. So it's amazing that all these that we have access to all these education tools. And I just comparing, because it's obviously I comparing. I believe I never gonna get this kind of tools in my country, for example. So I'm so lucky, and they be so proud and lucky to have all these resources and take advantage of that. Because I don't know, I admire all my life all my teachers, and I feel so proud. I mean, and to having the opportunity to keep in my education every day, or improve myself and learn more every day from whatever. But I think so. I think very important education for everybody. It opens too many doors, too many. For me, education is the best that can happen to me, and I feel very humble. I mean, to have this opportunity and express a little bit myself, but I don't know. It's just I am just very grateful with the program, because without the program, I don't think so I get that job. I don't think so feel confident as I feel now. And it's amazing. It's a great opportunity for everybody. And I hope so who the listeners understand that you have these tools available for everybody. If you want to become somebody, you will. I mean, there are the opportunities, the resources. So it's just to decide to become a better person. I don't know.
Can I just add, Erika, that we are the ones that are so lucky to have you as part of our program, because you are giving back. You've also participated in a video, like we did a little advertisement for.
Oh my God.
Yes. So you're always willing to step up, and sometimes I'm sure out of your comfort zone, to support the program that supports you. So we appreciate you. My face is hurting because I'm just smiling and beaming so much while you're talking. I'm just so proud. But you have done a lot for us as well.
I'm so grateful, really. I'm so grateful. I'm hopefully all the students that are now feel the same way, because it's a reality. I mean, I just told them when I talk with them, like, please just follow that they tell you, because there are the tools that they give it to you is the right tools.
Right.
Right.
And I know my own students have expressed, like, oh, I wish that I could hear from a student who's done this. You know, like I wish I had a role model, a mentor to walk me through this. Like, no offense to you, teacher, but someone who's taken this path. And so you are certainly making a huge impact, not just on the program, but on those individual lives.
Also, sharing your stories will empower the program to just go to our funders and say, see, our program is really doing a great job. So if we want us to continue doing a great job, he can continue funding us so we can serve more people.
Yes,
so brave peoples like you are doing an amazing job putting yourself out there and just sharing your success stories to inspire the whole community to share how wonderful and how much needed these adult ed programs are. So
it is
wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, so, I mean, learn is a very important thing, I think so, for everybody.
That's true.
So yes, hopefully everybody understands that.
Absolutely. So I can't express enough what a pleasure it has been hearing your story and what you are doing. Because I hope that maybe more students will feel empowered to talk to others, right? Talk to their neighbors, talk to people who are currently enrolled, because word of mouth is really powerful. And of everybody who you can see on your screen right now, right? Like your story is the one that matters, right?
Oh, thank you.
You are the one that we are all doing this for. And so the fact that you are giving back is just, it's incredible.
It's the last. I mean, I understand. I was teacher too sometimes in my country. I just and it's important. I love my teachers. So all the people how I learn. So for me, it's so important.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. So, Tammy and Patrick and Erika, do you have any social media handles that if our listeners have any questions, they can share? They can shoot you their questions. Tammy, do you have any social media handles?
Troy CE Online is for our Troy Continuing Education. And if you find the website is just troyceonline.com, you can find the advertisement that Erika is in, the video that we helped create that she is in, if you want to see a little highlight of Erika.
Wow, wonderful. Erika, what's your social media handle?
Oh, I don't into too much on that social media. No. So I prefer to, I have Instagram, but it's private and I prefer to keep it like that. But I can share my email if you want it.
Sure.
Perfect.
Yes, it's Erika M.MMUNOZ @gmail.com.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Patrick, what's your social media handle?
Yeah, you can follow us. I'll give our association is at MACAE, MACAE today, like today. We're on all the major social media platforms, so follow us on all of those.
We absolutely will. I'd like to say, does anybody want to say a final word to our listeners today before we wrap up?
I'll just say thank you for this opportunity, and I would encourage others to join. If you're asking for other volunteers or guests, they make it a very easy process. And just continue the hard work that you do. And advocacy is so important. It comes in many facets, and you have great all-star leaders here in Erin and Sara as advocates. And we're so proud of Erika. And thanks again to Tammy and all of our other directors in Michigan. And thanks for this opportunity.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to
do an extra special thank you to Erika for being brave enough to come on and support this podcast. And for those out there, this is a great step. If they ask you to come on, please do. It's good practice for advocacy too, because you're talking to a lot of different people that you don't really know in advocacy as well. So it's great practice, and it's a great way to get your students some experience stepping out of their comfort zones and speaking in other avenues.
Thank you very much. thank you for the opportunity, and thank you again. So grateful.
All right. Thank you all for joining. We are thrilled. It was a great conversation. And I know, Patrick and Tammy, we will definitely be seeing you around in COABE functions and webinars. And Erika, I will definitely try to keep in touch with you because I'm excited to hear about the impact that you're leaving on your community.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
I will do that.
Thank you all.
You're listening to Advocast, the Adult Education Podcast. This podcast has been sponsored by the Coalition on Adult Basic Education and by Burlington English. You can find us at coabe.org or on COABE's YouTube channel.